Okay. We're gonna bring, and this will be all organized, hopefully, on that, with the document, with the papers. So we're gonna do the 13 Ikarim, the 13 principles of faith from Harambam. We're gonna do a number of the additional core concepts. We did Chokhmah and Binah that I put together. Okay, we have a lot of them. We'll do probably about 20 of them. And that's very important. And then we're gonna do some work from Rabbi Cook, which is just absolutely beautiful. And we're going to keep moving into everything will be related to what we're doing in the Mesilat Yesharim. The second part of the book, we're going to move through much, much faster. And then what I'd like to do, we'll see, because we made a commitment to finish in June. I think we'll be fine with that. What I'd like to do is maybe do a little there Hashem in there as well. But the point will be, by the time we're finished with this, you'll have a very comprehensive picture, I believe, and also at least an introduction to a handful of other related works. And we may decide we want to go, a lot further in those works, over time.
What's the general theme, like you're saying?
The general what?
The general theme, like you're pulling things to come back to this
Okay,
book.
good. So I'll tell you, excellent. So the general theme is a very heightened level of self-awareness and me God awareness. That's really the thing. No, thank you for asking.
Okay,
That's the thing. It's
okay.
a very high level of me awareness and me God awareness, that we then drill down the tools to maintain on a day-to-day basis. So it's not inspiration and done. It's inspiration and here are the tools. And what I'm hoping in this case for at least some of you is you'll be able to teach it. I think you'll be able to teach it. That's the plan. When we're done, the papers will be organized. It'll be done better. It'll be somewhat of a workbook. And you can own it, teach it, build it. I'm going to keep going back and going forward with the papers. I'm going to keep going back and going forward. There's going to be some infill. So if we can nail this, which I believe everybody in this group can and will, then end up just life is altogether different, and it creates just this basket for just about whatever else you want to learn. Because everything else you learn with this different level of awareness. So it's Chumash will be different. Halacha will be completely different. Good? Yeah? And, okay. Where's the end? Okay. Okay. So, all right. So I actually put out a few questions, right? What were those? I put them on this. Let me get that. Okay. Okay. First question. What so far, based on what we learned, what we think, what has greater value in life? Success or the opposite? What would we say has value? Now, what feels better, this, that, okay. We're not. Leslie, that's your dog?
Oh, I thought I'm muted. I'm sorry.
Well, when your dog barks, your black box lights.
I'm sorry.
I never saw that before.
Sorry.
That's actually a great one. The dog is on the class. Okay, what has more value?
You're going to say failure.
We're going to say failure, but we need to say why failure. Why does failure have more value than success?
Because you grow more through failure.
You grow through failure, right? You think through failure.
I'm going to say failure followed by success, because you have to do something with the failure.
You have to, but what if you, but 1 second, that's very good. What if, 1 second. Look, before we do that, before we say what we have to do with the failure, I want to get comfortable with the fact that from a Torah perspective, right, we're talking about the Sadiq first and foremost, right? Oh, and by the way, there's another element we're going to add in, and that's going to be certain tefillot. We're going to add certain tefillot in that just complete this overall picture. Okay. So the Sadiq, tell me, who is the Sadiq again? What's the Sadiq's story? What does he do? And that's what we're all striving to be, right? The Sadiq knows who he or she is, knows what his or her kochot are, identifies those kochot or identifies those strengths, and based on those strengths, moves beyond what he or she has achieved to further realize what they can be. So there's nothing better. The top of the totem pole is the tzaddik. So again, the tzaddik, first and foremost, has the self-confidence, the self-love, the clarity of self to say, these are the things I do well. He then recognizes his obligation to those things. If I do these things well, then I have to fully actualize them in me. I can't be given a certain gift by God or have developed a certain gift in me and not build with it. That's called kifui tov. If a person has a certain gift or a certain quality and fails to recognize it, you with me, Rachel? Fails to recognize it or recognizes it but fails to act on it, that's called kifui tov. Kifui tov means you take the good that God gave you or you worked hard to do and you kick it away, you push it away, you don't care about it, you don't want it. From a Torah point of view, to be kifui tov is sometimes paralleled with idol worship. With avodah zarah, not idol worship, but avodah zarah, strange worship. So how does that work? If somebody, so let's start again. We said that mistakes, failures have more value than successes. That's our headline so far. Sarah raised the point, we're going to get there in a little while, but I don't want you to go there yet. I want you to start with this. Failures, mistakes from a Torah point of view have more value than successes, right? Good. So broaden it out. The person who we're talking about in the context of failures and successes is the budding tzaddik, the person who has the clarity, the self-love to recognize these are the things God either gave me naturally. I don't know why I'm good at this. It's natural. Or it was natural and I built on it. Or it wasn't natural at all and it's mine completely. I built this koach, I built this skill and this talent from scratch, right? When the person then identifies these things, he has and she the obligation to act on them, to build with them, to actualize them, right? This is pashut, right? We got it, good. What's interesting about it is that it plays across the spectrum in Judaism. So it has to do with learning, gemilut chasadim, self-expression in career, hobbies, across the board. It's all of the above. I have to hang up my shingle in all of the above, all of these areas. I have to say, this is what I can do. I have to start doing them, right? This is all review. This is all review. Who sits on the top of the totem pole in Judaism? This guy, this gal, alat tzadikim v'ala hasidim, who holds up the community. Who's the most revered one in the community, whether the person does it quietly or not? The tzaddik, because the tzaddik has courage. The tzaddik has courage. Now, if the tzaddik has the courage to recognize all these things in himself or herself, then they have to begin to act on them, right, Diane? They have to begin to act on them. When you begin to act on them, what's going to happen?
You're gonna fail at some things, and you're gonna succeed at some.
That's right. You're going to fail at a lot of stuff, God willing, at a lot. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, right? That's the way it's going to be. Now, the person who's in a safe zone doesn't have that problem. The person who's in a safe zone, who doesn't acknowledge the strengths or doesn't reach to actualize the strengths, won't make the mistakes.
But how does the Tov relate to failures? Because if you're good at something, the chances are you're not gonna fail.
Beautiful. But if you're good at, let's say I'm good at whatever I'm good at, right? It's impossible to avoid stumbling
Even if
to
you're good
raise
at-
the bar
even if you're good
because
at
I'm
it.
going into uncharted territory. I was never here before, right? I told you designed something on this scale, right? On scale X. Now you want to design, you have the opportunity to design something on a scale that's 3 times X, whether it be size or complexity or whatever it might be, right? Okay, now when you're going from 1X to 3 times X, is the innate ability there? Is the skill there? Are you going to get it done? Let's assume if you can't, you can't, but that's not what we said. We said you identify the strength and you can. You just haven't yet. Okay, I can do it. I haven't done it yet. Maybe I can't do something on that's 100X, but to go from 1X to 3X, is it a reach? Is it a stretch? Yeah, but I can do it. This is what we do all the time, right? Okay,
Where does the failure come in?
beautiful. So when I'm going from 1X to 3X, to use our example, this is all uncharted territory. So what's going to happen?
You're gonna make mistakes.
I'm going to make mistakes. Beautiful. I'm going to make mistakes. That's where the failures come in. And typically, the failures, the mistakes are much greater than, they're many more than the successes because uncharted. But you know what? I stumbled, I figured it out. I stumbled, I figured it out. I stumbled, I figured it out. Right? So
In the interim, you're building resistance,
you're building.
resistance and
Fine.
not the word
Resilience. You're building resilience. You know
resilience.
something? You're right. And that's also going a little bit in the direction of what Sarah's saying, but I don't want you to go there. Don't give me excuses to make the mistakes better. I don't care about building resilience. You're 100% right, Diane, but I don't care. And this is how you have to go. Forget it's true, but forget it. Forget it. A mistake is great. Forget everything else. We're going to go on the happiness thing again, right?
Oh, gosh.
When Sarah, speaking of Sarah, and I were doing Shlach Manot together, one of the things that I
1 second. hang on.
probably the most effective thing that we did was after every year, a week later, we gave ourselves a minute to catch up. We had like an assessment about how it went, and we wrote down literally pages of what went right, what went wrong. And the next year, we took out our papers and we learned from it. And okay, we have to make sure to do this. We can't do that. And it was a game changer. They were failures. Were we resilient? We were not thinking resilient. We were thinking, how do we make this better? How do we make it easier for us? How do we
That's
make
all.
it more profitable, more successful, more whatever.
Beautiful. Diane's right. You absolutely do build resilience, but I don't care about
Right,
that.
so for us, I'm saying we didn't care about
Right.
that. We cared about the bottom line.
Beautiful. Okay, good. So yeah, at the bottom line for the tzaddik, by the way, building a business is sitkut. It's absolutely an expression of sitkut because I recognize something in me and I'm going to go for it and build it. Okay, so
Is there a Hebrew term for the opposite of, for what we're talking about, the opposite of kifui tov?
the is hakarat hatov.
Oh, hakarata, okay.
Beautiful. Kifui tov means I don't recognize I don't recognize the good that God gave me or that I gave myself. What could be more awful than that? What could be more awful than that? If God gave me an innate talent or a skill and I developed it, or I developed it something completely on my own and I don't value it and I don't recognize it, that's because I'm worshiping something not Jewish. Avodah zarah doesn't mean idol worship. I said idol, I was wrong. Avodah zarah means worshiping something strange, zad, strange, outside of the context of Judaism. So if I identify something in me and I don't act on it, that's avodah zarah. If I fail to identify it in me, that's avodah zarah. Because what am I worshiping? I'm worshiping weakness. I'm worshiping ineptitude. I'm worshiping humility. What am I worshiping? I'm not worshiping the platform to become a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a killer. A Sadiq is making his mistakes or hers greatly outnumber the wins. Right?
What's the translation for Kipoi Tov?
Kipoi Tov is someone who doesn't acknowledge the good. In other words, the real meaning, Rachel, to you is you return the good with something not nice. In other words, you're kafoi. So, kafoi tov, I'll give you an example. If somebody does a nice thing for somebody, and in return, they do a nasty thing back. That's kafoi tov. So you took a good and you did something
so the good that God
ugly
gave
with
you
it.
and you
Right.
didn't-
It's a horrible thing. Well, it's a horrible thing. We can't tolerate that from our children. It's so painful. So imagine Hakadosh Baruch Hu tolerating it from us. He gave us the capacity to do X. We talk ourselves out of it. We want to be conservative. What are you talking about? It's not Judaism. Work with what?
I don't know. I don't know how to write that.
Okay.
I want to write
Which part?
the paragraph. We put in like a couple of words. That's what I did. No, I mean I understand the concept. I just wasn't sure how to.
Okay, so it's only the beginning. You're gonna build it more. But you're with me on the concept? You're with me on the concept,
The
right?
concept I
I
understand,
want you
yeah.
to take out of your minds this idea that a Sadiq is some person with a long beard. That's not a Sadiq. Everybody in this room and on this thing is a Sadiq. Every time I recognize what's me and I act on it, it's Sidkut, okay? And the idea is I'm acting on it forever and ever, never stops. Now, who is God the toughest with? Who is he the toughest with?
The one's the most potential.
Right? So in this conversation, who's going to be the toughest on?
The ones who are doing
The
it.
Sadiq.
Right.
1 second. God, I'm the guy that I recognize this concept in Judaism and I'm acting on it. You're going to be tougher on me? Yes. The same way the teacher is the toughest on the most gifted student, and the parent, even though we never say it, is the most demanding on the most gifted child. That's a fact.
What's
So-
higher than a tzaddik?
Nothing. Great point. Great question, Diane. Nothing. And don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. Nothing. Good?
Mhm.
Ricky, I have a question. What would you consider failure? Are we talking about personal things in relationship to people and Hashem, or business and those type of things?
It's it's all dependent on great point. It's all dependent on what Sitkut track are you approaching. There will be a track to be a Sadiq between people, and there'll be failures there, God willing. Because if there aren't, it means you're not reaching high enough and there aren't going to be successes. There'll be failures in career when you're attempting to actualize your innate skills to build on your experience. There'll be failures in the chasing, in the actualizing of that Sitkut. And by the way, I'm being very careful not to translate it to righteous because it's a mistranslation and I don't want you to use it. Just stick with the word Sadiq and that's it. These words, when we mistranslate them to English, they take us in a whole different direction. So Leslie, to your point, there's a Sadiq track in several areas of my life. In doing chesed, there's a way to hang up the shingle and see how I can do more, reach beyond into uncharted territory. In the love and relationships, same thing. In career, same thing. In hobby, same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Ricky, like on Kippur, when Hashem judges us and they say ben noni, what did they say? The middle. So what is that, a tzaddik?
Definitely not a Sadiq. A Ben-Oni is definitely not a Sadiq. And we'll take the Ben-Oni status in terms of God judging us. We'll take it for a short period of time. Ben-Oni means in the middle. But Ben-Oni is not a good thing to be. It's better than a Rasha, God forbid, an evil person. But nobody wants to be a Ben-Oni. Ben-Oni means so we say that judge us if, God forbid, the merits aren't enough to judge a person as a tzaddik, So then God, please judge me as a Benoni, as an in-between guy or gal, i.e. give me the time to move more in the right direction. But Benoni is never something we want. It's a fallback position, and it should only be a fallback position for a very limited period of time.
Okay.
Cool? Let's try
Yeah.
one other thing. Avodah Zarah, right? Foreign worship, strange worship is what it means. We used to be idol worshippers. Avodat Elilim or Avodat Pisilim, worshipped idols or false gods. We don't have that problem anymore. Nobody goes and bows down to a tree or a pole or whatever, right? But what we do, we worship false gods in terms of other things that we make our gods, whatever they might be, right? So the person who doesn't have the guts to stand up as a tzaddik is worshiping something else. He's drinking something else, right? So that's considered avodah zarah. Okay, so we want to be avoiding that.
Ricky, could the Sadiq also be the person in the Haggadah, the Chacham, Rasha, that person?
So the Chacham and the Tzaddik are different. They're different people. To be a Tzaddik, they're all intertwined, right? You want to be, ideally, you want to be Tzaddik and Chacham, but they're different people. They should be in the same person, but when we call out someone as a Chacham, doesn't necessarily mean he's a Tzaddik, and Tzaddik isn't necessarily a Chacham. Good. The Chacham,
Action-based,
who?
Sadiq.
A Tzaddik is very action-based. So now, if you're the Tzaddik, remember, right? How many more mistakes are there going to be? Many more. Many more. So now, to get back to Diane's point, and then Sarah, I want you to ask your question again. When we look at mistakes now, God willing, with this perspective, we don't, excuse the coarseness of this, we don't care what the takeaway. I don't want to soften the mistake. I don't want to say all the good that comes out of the mistake. I don't want to say that. Just do it, man. Have a mistake, have a failure, and be comfortable with it.
Take away the emotion out of it, like the same way you said.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, we did say that, right? We did. Did we say that?
No,
Yeah, we-
acknowledge the mistake, meaning don't attach an emotion to it or.
Beautiful, perfect. Don't attach an emotion to it, and don't attempt to rationalize it and say, I learned from it. I know now why I wouldn't do it again. Forget all that. Now what you're doing is you're taking the potency out of the mistake. Just let it be a mistake. Cool. It's great. It's a mistake. Guess what? I wanted to design a watch. It's a 50-step process. I got 49 wrong, but I nailed it in the 50th. Who cares about the other 49? Nobody. And God doesn't care. God wants you to be moving up that ladder to make the watch, so to speak. Right? So what do we do so often? A, we're risk adverse. We're mistake adverse. If we're not mistake adverse, we rationalize the mistake and we couch it into something nice. It gives me this. It helps me with that. It takes me to that. Baloney. It's hard. It's painful. I cried when I made that mistake. That's what it should be.
It's tied into the whole Christian guilt,
That's right. That's right.
which it's very hard to get out of because that's where we're living, right?
Like when we're in that.
I was telling someone that we're learning, what we're learning, and I was telling them a few of the concepts. Like, really? Like,
I'm not coming to that
No,
class.
they just couldn't believe, like it's so anti what we think is part of Judaism and normal because this is where we live, but
Yeah,
it's not. Like
It's so not Jewish. It's so not Jewish.
wow.
Yeah, so we're gonna fight it. We're gonna break it. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned that at the time, but I think we did. The from a Kabbalistic point of view, our neshamot get tainted and clouded when we live under other cultures. So it just seeps in. We can't. But that's why we're here. Okay, so we understand that a mistake, and don't try to couch it, and don't try to take away all the good stuff from it. Just boom. Okay,
But when
good.
you do that, you end up not taking the next step because you're satisfied with the mistake.
Right.
So.
No, when you put all the dressings
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it. Right. Just say,
Made a
I
mistake and move on.
made a mistake and say, oh yeah, I'm moving. How many people, to your point, most of the people have these Christian perspectives. Most of the people we know, right? Because that's what they learned over the years. And most people really will find the way to rationalize away or take something from mistake, this, that, because they can't just deal with the raw mistake.
So Ricky, how does it relate to relationships? If we make a mistake in a relationship?
Well, okay, good. So what's the context, Diane? What's the context?
Say I hurt someone's feelings, or whatever, I was late and they got upset or something like that.
I'm talking about, yes, I hear what you're saying. I'm talking about a mistake in the context of growth.
I was thinking of, I'm sorry, that's what I was thinking of, apology.
Of course we say we're sorry, of course we do. But if the mistake was in the context of growth, if I'm trying to elevate the love, the sensitivity between me and another person, and I went too far or something like that, of course you say you're sorry, but you just say, okay, what do I take from that mistake? The way you did, they call it a post-mortem, right? In American business. What can I take from it and keep going, keep building?
Right.
Sarah, you want to go back to your question? You probably, you forgot it already or what?
I didn't forget it. I said it's the success followed by the failure.
Yeah.
That was my response to your question.
The success followed by the failure is what?
Or I said failure followed by success. Like you said, what's more important, failure or success? I said failure followed by success.
Good. Now we have another interesting thing in Judaism, and that is we have to be sameach b'chalkenu. We have to be happy with where we are and with our lot, and we have to be completely dissatisfied with where we are. Another little Jewish thing that we have. So we have to be. So that's a great one.
Maybe it's happy with what happened, but not happy with what's going to be.
Right. Good. But the trick is right now where I am right here, right now, I'm having a great time. I'm very happy. So if you're having a great time, why are you pushing for more? Because I'm Jewish. And I believe in Torah and I believe in God. And I know that that's my possibility. So what do people do? Either they're not having a great time because they're reaching. So therefore, this can't be good if I want that. That's not true. This could be fabulous, but I could still want that. The Western perspective is if I want that, it means I'm not satisfied here. That's not true. Now, it's easier to go that way, right? And to convince yourself of that over and over. But if a person is satisfied with his lot and happy and also striving, that's what we want. Ezehu ashir hasameach b'chadko. Who is the wealthy person? The person is happy with what he has is absolutely true. And the tzaddik has that same imperative. And that's very hard. If I got to figure out how to be happy with what I have and also be striving for more. Isn't that conflicting? The answer is isn't. So
can I tell like a tiny story that kind of goes back to the failure, success, and the sameach b'chalko?
Of course.
So my oldest daughter, when we moved from Deal to Brooklyn when she was starting high school, and she decided to not focus on her grades. She was so involved in wanting to make friends and maintain these new friendships and be very involved in all the other things that school had to offer. And she's a talented singer. And when it came time for college, she didn't have her grades, but she applied to a music school, the Aaron Copland School of Music. And it was audition based and application based. And she got in on the audition and she did not get in on the academic portion. And we took her for a celebratory dinner and she looked at us and she was like, why are we celebrating? I'm not going to this school next year. And I said, because you got in on the audition and it's okay that you didn't get in on the academic portion, because if you want this, you can still do this.
Mhm.
And it can still be something, so it's like samech b'chalko, like be happy that you had this piece, and then strive for more, and also success followed by failure. She worked her tail off, went to community college, re-auditioned, reapplied, and started the next year. And it
Beautiful.
was just like, we want them to, and then, yes, in between all of that, going to Diane's point, it builds resilience too.
Mhm. Okay. First of all, grand slam the way you handled it, in my opinion. But and what Diane is saying is true about building the resilience. But I'm going to exaggerate. Excuse me, Diane. I'm going to just exaggerate for a minute. I don't care about that.
What does resilience mean?
Resilience, strength, fortitude, endurance, so that the next time you hit a mistake, it's going to be easier. Your next time you hit the bump, it's going to be easier, right? But I don't want you to even go there. Don't even.
It also builds confidence.
But don't go there. Don't go there. Listen, it's very, very important. When we say, and let's think this through a minute. When we say that X yields Y, right? A mistake yields, right? Person deals with it properly, yields resilience, yields confidence, right? What are we doing with the mistake? When we say it yields X, it brings Y, what are we doing?
Nothing, I think.
No, what are we doing with it?
Like elevating.
Minimizing it, making excuses for it.
We're minimizing it. We're finding uses for it. We're couching it. We're cushioning it. We're excusing it. Stop that. Stop
But what
it.
about knowledge that we get from it? What's
I'm
wrong with
telling you,
knowledge?
It's all true. Leslie, it's all true. Diane, it's all true, but don't go there.
So you don't want us to judge it. You want us to face the mistake and move on.
That's it.
Let's go.
Get the resilience, get the knowledge, get all that. Achayad.
So it's not really
It's a
important.
byproduct, but don't excuse mistakes. Get off it. Face the mistake. Face it. Be a man or a lady. Right? Face it. And then the byproducts are the byproducts. It's true. We build resilience, we build confidence, the experience, 100%, all true. But don't go there. Don't go there.
So we told her you didn't focus on your academics, and that is why you are here in this point. But so do something about it, do something with that, that was something that you made those choices. Here are the perot or whatever, the non-perot of your,
Oh, those are the perot. You hit it perfectly. Those are the perot, right?
right. And now you have the option to move forward and to shift things around and to do what you want. You still can do what you want. It just isn't the same road.
That's right. So Sarah,
Doesn't
you're
look the same.
honest enough to highlight the success and honest enough not to cushion the failure. Just that, you're right. You were honest enough. And that's why she had the gumption possibly to get on her feet. Right? Beautiful. Any other thoughts or questions on this? This is no less a cornerstone of Judaism than the have a great time thing is. So we got to own this one.
Had a great time while you're making mistakes.
Right. That's what's more clear than that? What is more obvious than that? How's that? All right. Yeah. Okay. We're going to hear this again, but start to be there. Anything else from you guys on Zoom? Any other thoughts or questions on this point?
Concept.
This is oh, very good. This is not only Ramchal. I just want to see the other questions I sent.
We didn't get to that part yet.
This is I want to say Rambam, Ramchal, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and certainly Rav Kook. But the reason I'm struggling a little bit is because it's a pervasive concept in Judaism. I don't have to, I can tag it to this one, that one, or that one, but
And they all believe it.
yeah. And I want to say one more time, everybody is a tzaddik on a certain level and can absolutely be a tzaddik on many, many levels. Let's get these false things out of our heads about, a certain level of piety, meaning this or that or that. No such thing. There's just no such thing in Judaism. We take pictures of certain people in our minds and we establish certain criteria about who they are. It's just
It's very important, I think, in where we live.
Yeah.
Because there are failures and then we stop because we're worried about what X is gonna think or Y is gonna say. Or we're comparing ourselves with someone else. So we give up. So I think it's an important concept to have a failure and let it go. Don't take it so seriously.
and no, and again, we talked about this in a little different terminology, but if 30 days goes by and you haven't had failures, you better worry. You worry. That's let's be clear on this. I think we talked about this, maybe not. Yeah, okay, we did. Okay, so if you haven't had them, you better worry. Okay. I'm gonna I just want to see if we could get this done in 20 minutes. All right, let's do this other point and then we say that if someone chases kavod, the kavod runs very quickly away from that person. One who chases kavod, kavod runs away. So what does kavod mean, first of all? What is the root word of kavod?
Respect.
But what's the root word in Hebrew?
A bit heavy.
Heavy, right? So the word kavod comes from kaved, which is heavy, right? We should have this on the page there. Yeah, which is heavy. So when the person is chasing kavod, what does that mean? What are they trying to do?
Make themselves a big shot.
Yeah, create a certain level of weightiness, right? Certain level of weightiness. So what does this mean if a person, now, again, the person we're talking about is a tzaddik. It's a person who's a fighter, who's a risk taker. She wants to build, they want to grow, stick the neck out, this, that. So what's the problem with, what does it mean to chase kavod? And why does it boomerang back so negatively? What does it mean to chase kavod? Well, let's take it out of the simple, colloquial type of understanding. What does it mean?
You're saying you have to earn it?
Huh?
You have to earn it?
No, but it's true, but no. What does chasing it mean? Give me an example.
Intentions when you're doing an act, like you have the wrong intentions.
No,
You're doing it
no.
for-
No, let's say it's a tzaddik. That's why this is tzaddik. It's a tzaddik, right? The person has good intentions, but he or she wants
Recognition.
the recognition.
Wrong intent, like they're doing it, but they want to get credit for it.
No,
No?
I don't want you to. I got it. The person is doing it for the right intentions. He's a tzaddik. She's a tzaddiket, right? Doing it for the right intentions to get closer to me, to get closer to God, right? But there's a little bit of tug, a little bit of a pull towards the kavod, the weighty
Is
side.
this about the chasing? Is it about the chasing word? That you're,
Well, what we said, if you're chasing the opportunity to express yourself along the lines of your strength or your core skill, that's a good thing. So first of all, what is being chased here? And start with what kavod means. Well, if we said weightiness or heaviness, what does that
Maybe
mean?
they're taking themselves too seriously. Like, maybe they're
Maybe
Yeah.
the ego is getting in the way.
because I'm a tzaddik and maybe they're just
Right.
taking themselves too much. They're making it too serious. Like
Beautiful. They take themselves too seriously. There's an ego thing going on here. And what else does it reflect?
insecurity.
Beautiful. That's what it's the main problem with it. Because if I need the affirmation of him, her, or her,
Right.
then it reflects an insecurity. And by the way, the tzaddik, to be insecure, hard to line that up.
Wow, so
it's a little desperate like, it's a little desperate. When you
It's a
chase.
little desperate. It's desperate, right? Leslie, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying, I think that it's tied to ego.
Yes,
But
definitely.
You did say the Sadiq is confident, I guess, in their abilities. But then there's an insecurity here with this person.
Yeah, everybody has, everybody, even the Sadiq, to your point, Sarah, sometimes it's an insecurity vis-a-vis a person, sometimes it's insecurity vis-a-vis what they're attempting to do with this stage in their life, right? They're reaching, they're scared, huh?
No, I think it's a little deeper than that. I think it's that, like when we talk about your worthiness as a person, I don't think it's necessarily the insecurity is dependent on anything else. It could just
Okay,
be a
it
core
could be
feeling.
nothing, it could
Yeah.
be related to nothing,
Right.
fine, I think you're right, I agree with that, I think you're right.
Mhm.
So when you chase the kavod is going to run away from you. If you chase that sense of weightiness, of people giving that type of affirmation to you, it's going to run away from you. So what does that mean? What does it mean? It's going to run away. And what's the antidote?
Maybe that's where failure comes in. Like they'll begin to fail.
Huh? You're
Maybe they'll
koshering
begin-
failure. We said we're not going to
No,
kosher
he's
failure.
saying one who runs from honor will, if he chases honor, honor will run from him. So I'm saying if he's
Yeah.
chasing honor, maybe he'll fail. He'll
No, leave it separate. Beautiful. Leave it separate. Leave it
What's
separate.
the antidote to stop?
The antidote is to stop.
Not
And-
running?
Let it chase you.
So what's
Huh?
the
All right,
Let
there
it
you go.
chase you.
So that's what happens. When a person isn't needy, right? When a person doesn't need the affirmation of this one, that one, on that one, right? He doesn't need to looked upon as weighty or substantial, whatever, I don't know the term. By this one, that one, and that one, if you earn it, you get it. And you don't have to do anything beyond working it. In other words, if you take your design efforts, for example, from point A to point C, just as an example, the perspective from a Torah point of view is when you earned it and you achieved it, all the recognition that will help move it even further will come to you. You don't have to, okay, marketing, no, okay, not talking about that. But you don't have to be needy of getting it out there. It'll come, it comes.
It comes, but once it comes, you get used to it and you use it to move forward. So it's the same thing again.
You shouldn't use it for anything.
I'm saying, but even if you're not looking for it and eventually you get it, like it's very hard not to
It is.
not to need it.
That's right. Exactly. And that's why a Sadiq went from this position to this position, right? And he says, you know what? I killed myself here. I wouldn't mind a little bit of recognition. He, God willing, talks himself out of that. It'll come barreling over more than he ever could think. This position, the same challenge is going to happen again. And you know what? We see people who need the kavod. You see it in certain people. You see it, right? You see it. They want it. They have to have it. You can see it in a person and how he or she walks into a room, right? How they finish a sentence, how they give a thing. You see it. It's, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the Torah model. Torah model is you build it, you build yourself, and it will come. That's really what it is. Build it and it will come. You don't have to chase anything. You don't have to chase anything. Just make what you're building serious and substantive then. And don't chase any acknowledgement or respect or anything else. Okay?
Mhm.
Good. Yeah, good. Okay, that was a more easy one. Okay, let's go to the next thing. We'll get partially through this today, and then we'll pick it up next time. Building your day hour by hour. I mentioned building your day hour by hour, maybe last time or the time before. And the question is, how do you build a framework for that? And this is something that, God willing, we'll use for ourselves and to help others. Go to bottom of page 5, who has the papers with them. And we talk about the 5 areas of the neshama, nefesh, guf expression. Okay, so let's first tease out what these are. The neshama is the easiest one. What's the neshama? Yeah, good. The neshama is the totally non-physical piece of me. On Monday, God willing, we're going to have the Chumash Bereshit in front of us, and we're going to see how this all works in the text. Okay, but for now, the neshama is totally non-physical. That's the peace of God, so to speak, that's sitting in me, right? That's the neshama that we say Elokai neshama shenatata bi Torah, right? We thank God for giving it back to us every morning. Modeh Ani is referencing the neshama. Good. Then we have the nefesh. What is the nefesh?
You say it's both?
Both. Beautiful. The nefesh is that entity which combines both.
Both what?
Both spiritual and physical. Good. And the guf is all physical. Good. So this is a composite of the human being. Now, of course, what drives that is the sechel, right? The intellect, is the lev, is the emotional intelligence. All that drives all of this. Okay, good. So if a person wants to build the day, right? To build a day filled with growth and movement and so on, the first thing they need to do is acknowledge that they have to speak to these three areas of self: the purely spiritual area, to the spiritual physical, and to the purely physical.
Wait, what is that, the nefesh? What's an example of that?
Us.
What's an example of it? What's an example of a need of the nefesh?
No, what, I understand what non-physical is. I understand what physical is, but when you combine it, what is it?
It's
Kind of
the
more
area that where we have both. For example, when you have the Seudat Purim, right?
Mhm.
What do? We bring a beautiful table, God willing, beautiful food, and songs and divrei Torah and laughter, and all. So part of it speaks to the guf, the physical, which is the beautiful food and whatever, and part of it speaks to the spiritual. That would be an example. Most of what we do is for the nefesh.
Okay,
Most of what
yeah,
we
that's
do,
what it is.
right?
Okay.
Which is very important in Judaism, because in Judaism, we're not ascetics. We don't run for the hills and connect to God in a monastery on the side of a mountain, right? We make it a point to bring the two together. And that's why Purim is even better than Kippur, right? It's better than Kippur. Because Kippur, you had to abstain from something to get there. On Purim, we're doing it. So great. That's a very important question. That's the nefesh where most stuff happens, where it's physical and spiritual. Most stuff happens. Great. Now that if I acknowledge that those are the three components of me, it means that those three areas, the purely spiritual, the spiritual physical, and the purely physical, all have needs and all have expressions, all have what they want, what they need. So that means that when I'm building my day or building my life or attempting to become more of a Sadiq, I need to first call out what makes me me. We have three parts. And then I have to take from those three parts the needs of those three parts, or the expressions or the opportunities of those three parts. I have to fill them.
So
Okay,
it's 5 times 3. It's 15 things we need to fulfill.
that's, no, we didn't get there yet. Very good. Beautiful. Okay, but that's a great point.
What's five? Where
It's
did
a
you
lot
get
of
five
work.
from?
It's a lot.
Areas, the 5 areas.
Oh.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. No. Let's not say that yet. Let's just go step by step. Very good. Very good. Okay. We're not going to say that, although it's a fascinating idea. I actually never thought of it that way. I'm working
I'm exhausted already.
this idea. I'm working this idea for a long time, and I never thought about that. But that's a very exciting idea.
Hmm.
I have to work that. I never looked at it as 15. I looked at it as 5 as a result of the 3, that the 3 gives me 5. But I really think there might be a 15 there.
I think so, because if just based on what you're explaining, you would have to fulfill, they're different tracks, so they would need to overlap.
Right.
I don't know.
The question is, are there 15 independent tracks here? Maybe there are. I think that's very exciting. Huh?
And so we could probably figure out a way to make it.
By the way,
come to 15.
it's just very exciting that you can fulfill. I don't know, but then, okay, we have to see. And-
You're overlapping when you're doing the nefesh, because it's neshama and guf together, right?
Right.
So aren't you overlapping anyway? Because you're using both.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know. I want to think about it. I feel like we could figure it out that it's 15.
That would be super. It's a great one. It's a great one. Here again in Bereshit, we're gonna add a little bit to this from the text on Monday, God willing. But okay, so let's work it. Let's work it that it might be 15, or it could be a compounded amount. It certainly could be. It's great. Do you guys have page 5? Any of you have it on the Zoom?
I don't, I'm a little lost on what she said about 15.
Okay. Okay, so it goes like this. Let's back it up. You know what? Rachel's gonna back it up. How's that? 'Cause she's gonna teach this idea soon.
Okay, Rachel.
Just looking at the part where it says build your day, it says 5 areas of the nefesh, neshaman, and guf. And then he had 1 to 5. So I just asked if it was 5 times 3, if each of those 3 were expressed in each of the 5.
But say the 1 to 5 because they don't have it.
Oh, the 5 areas of the intellectual, spiritual, emotional, creative, career, and fun.
Oh, okay. I didn't have the 5 things. Okay. Great. Thank you, Rachel.
So for those who don't have it, let's just take one more minute. So we say that human being is made up of these 3 core parts, and there are expressions, needs of these 3 core parts. Rachel is raising a fabulous option here, whether it's each, the neshama, for example, which is purely spiritual, needs to express in all 5 areas, and maybe the nefesh does as well. The guf might be a little bit harder to say that, the body, but certainly at minimum, we have 5 tracks that a person can become a tzaddik in and continue to raise his sitkut or hers in, right? We have 5 tracks, and it might be more. So let's take one. Let's just take one and talk about it, because we're going to need a good amount of time on this. The intellectual. What does it mean to fulfill the intellectual area of self, or the intellectual track?
Would we always be learning and
Yeah. So it means that there's a part of the human being, exclusive of everything else, that is only built for this, and that must be driven, must be grown. So there's sitkut on the intellectual track. A person on an intellectual, from the intellectual sense of self, has to be able to identify and say, this is where I am, and this is where I'm going. And the sitkut is moving from here to here with all the mistakes that may come in and the ultimate growth and achievement. So let's go with the 5 for a minute, and we'll wrap up in 5-6 minutes. At minimum, we have these tracks, which say that the human being, at minimum, in the composite of the 3 core elements of us, right, has 5 areas that they need to be building. The intellectual one, we're going to talk about all these in depth, right? The spiritual one, what does spiritual mean?
like prayer and stuff like that?
Closeness to God.
Prayer, I want to put prayer. Okay, you could put prayer in there. You could put prayer in there. What also should be in there is chesed. I'm really a little more comfortable with prayer in the intellectual, but I could put it in, we could put it in spiritual.
We have to go in emotional also.
And it could go in emotional a little bit as well. So the tzaddik is identifying these areas: intellectual, spiritual, we said is chesed, let's say is prayer. Emotional is love and relationships. Creative or career is that practical expression of the human being. And what's fun?
That's your favorite.
That's my favorite. That's right, it is my favorite.
The basis of this class.
That's the basis of this class. We should retitle it. What is fun? How do you define it?
I think, don't you say that it's just fun?
Just
Nothing else attached
fun.
to it.
Just plain fun. Nobody's getting better. I'm not changing the world. I'm not doing it for my kid. All I'm doing is I'm having a great time, period.
Mhm.
So we want to acknowledge these 5 areas of self at minimum. And then we want to put together our day based on a plan to grow each of these areas. Now, it doesn't have to be that everything is done every day, but when I build my week and I fill in how I fill my day, this is where I start. And we know, we hold, and the reason I put intellectual first is because for a Jewish person, there's no getting around it. There's just simply no getting around it. You could go to any author you want, any thinker, any great rabbi, whatever you want, and there's nobody who would argue that the basis of our lives as Jews is knowledge. There's nobody can argue it. And it's no less true for anybody, no matter, you know. So that area should be pegged first. There should be kibiut, kibiut of itim la Torah, right? There should be a daily commitment to learning, daily, even if it's whatever amount of time, it doesn't matter. It's key. And this is the type of learning it has to be. It has to be this type of learning. It can't be light, this, that. It has to be tough, challenging, paradigm breaking. It has to be all of those to mean something.
Guys, a real topic question.
Of course,
Where was like parenting go?
it would go into emotional.
Emotional, but
Yeah.
it's not more than that.
What is it? What would you call it?
Oh, going to see it in a lot of different areas.
By the way,
So I was asking like where would it?
I think this is, if we created a spreadsheet, right? These could go this way and this way. They could be working on the this way on the column level and on the row level. And that's a very exciting way to build this. So you got 2 things on this thing now. That's actually very exciting because they really should go both. It should go this way. It should be emotional as it relates to the intellect. It should be emotional as it relates to the spirit. It should be emotional as it relates to emotion, and it should be emotional as it relates to fun.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have 87. You're gonna need
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
all woken up. Good. Thoughts, questions? Everybody okay over there?
Mhm.
All right, guys. We're I think we're gonna move this class to 11 o'clock on Thursday. Is that okay? Everybody on Zoom? Anybody have a
Yes.
works? All right, beautiful. Thank you so much. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Ricky.
Very, very.
Thank you. Thank you so much.